Welcome to the Chan Channel, not the Chin Channel. The Chan Channel! On today's episode, we will be discussing a hot topic, the launch of Sputnik.
Keith, get up. It's time for the show. Keith, dude. Hurry.
Please welcome the nasty Jasti.
Are you guys ready to launch?
So, how has the launch of Sputnik caused major effects in Europe?
Well, first of all, prior to the launch of Sputnik by Russia, two world superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States, were in a series of events that caused the relationship to worsen over time.
What series of events?
A series of unfortunate events, which started with the Berlin airlift.
In the playground, the US was like a skinny little kid. He was trying to provide balls for his friends on the playground.
The Soviet Union was like an elementary thug gangster who tried to prevent the US from getting to their toys.
These were the Berliners, the desperate friends of the US. They required supplies from the US, but were blocked by the Berlin blockade. Beginning on June 28, 1948, the Soviets blockaded Western transport networks into Germany to prevent Western aid to Berlin. The Soviets wanted complete Soviet control.
In response, Western Allies organized a new program, the Berlin Airlift, to supply Western Berlin with food and fuel.
This program was highly successful. This embarrassment to the Soviets further led to the deterioration of relationships between the USSR and the US.
Then, the United States and its Western European allies created NATO, a military agreement where members agreed to provide mutual defense against foreign attacks. At first, NATO consisted of many countries, including Canada, France, Great Britain, and of course, the United States. In response, countries in Eastern Europe created the Warsaw Pact to rival NATO. Countries like Germany, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary, Romania, Albania, Bulgaria, and the Soviet Union made up the Warsaw Pact.
Now let's take a look at the actual Sputnik.
The Sputnik satellite was not a large machine. In fact, it was extremely small. For something that was only the size of a beach ball and weighed a mere 184 pounds, Sputnik had an enormous impact on society. The Sputnik satellite was a 58 diameter aluminum sphere that carried 4 whip-like antennas that were 2 to 3 meters long. The instruments and electric power sources were housed in a sealed capsule and included transmitters operating at 20 to 40 megahertz. All of these combined created what we know today as the Sputnik satellite. Sputnik was launched for a few reasons, one of which, for example, was to test the method of putting an artificial satellite into space for the first time.
Sputnik was also made to calculate the density of Earth's atmosphere and to provide information on Earth's orbit.
Wasn't it also made to show off Soviet power, though?
Oh yeah! The Soviets wanted to prove that they were 10 times better than the US, that they could overpower them at any time. In a sense, the Soviets were like the bullies of the playground, and the US was a skinny little kid.
We're not going back to the playground!
Okay. But the point was that the Soviets wanted to show off.
The Russians wanted to make sure that people could both see and hear the satellite while it was in space. They polished it so well that when it reflected light, people could see it 175 miles up in the sky. In addition, the Sputnik broadcasted a really loud signal that even amateur radio operators could pick up around the world. The Soviets did this on purpose, so that the United States and the rest of the world could tell exactly what they were capable of and the breakthrough that they had just come up with. These are the actual sounds that the Sputnik made while it was in space.
Beep, 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 beep.
These are the actual sounds that Sputnik made.
Okay, turn it off. Oh, jeez. The distinct noises made by Sputnik made the Americans cringe as well. In embarrassment.
That's all it did. Make him feel embarrassed.
No, Sputnik obviously had a greater impact than that. It had a great impact on Soviet society, as we'll see later, but it also impacted American society. It even went as far as to threaten the presidency of Dwight D. Eisenhower. Oh my God.
How did a Russian beach ball affect the great Eisenhower?
Well, it wasn't Sputnik that directly threatened Eisenhower. It was the American population that did. You see, as the people began to learn about the Soviet successes, they began to question Eisenhower's presidency. In fact, the Democrats branded him as an incompetent leader for allowing the Soviet Union to beat the US into space by sending the first satellite into orbit.
Dude, wake up!
Oh my God.
That made sense, because the Soviets were moving a lot faster than the Americans were, right?
Yes, exactly. Eisenhower had to review the U.S. space program to ensure that levels of investment and progress being made were adequate. He intended to field the first intercontinental ballistic missiles and reconnaissance satellites by the time he left office. Dude, come on, you're the worst guest I've had on the Chan channel.
I'm sorry, okay? I got this. I'll explain. I'll explain Dwight Howard's presidency and other stuff about him, okay? I got this. To restore the public's confidence in his presidency,
But
Eisenhower increased government spending to develop the ballistic missile
dude,
and reconnaissance satellite technology. He also enacted education reforms to bolster science and math curriculums, spending billions on the national education. Keith, dude, we have a caller from one of our viewers. Keith. Hello, this is Chan Channel. What's your question?
Dude, it's me. I have a question. How did the public react to Sputnik?
Well, the Soviets had obviously asserted their dominance over the entire world. There were rumors that the Soviets could spy on the US anytime that they wanted. This struck paranoia and fear into the hearts of the US citizens, because they had no idea what the beeping satellite above them was capable of. On top of that, there was the question of why the Soviets could launch a satellite into space before the Americans could.
Wow, that's pretty creepy. If I was the Americans, I would threaten them back.
Well, they actually tried to.
And they succeeded, right?
Well, to say the least, the Americans started a retaliation program to send their own satellite, the Vanguard, up into space. Their grand plot for revenge weighed a grand total of 2.6
Tons?
pounds.
What the
Exactly. Not only was the Vanguard really tiny in comparison to the Sputnik, it fell farther into the ground than it actually rose into the air.
So the Soviets came out unscathed?
Well, yeah, basically. In fact, they kind of gained an advantage from the entire thing. Now, they could bluff and send intercontinental ballistic missiles anywhere at any time they wanted. And this deterred a lot of American attacks, since the Soviets didn't even have to mobilize to go to war.
Whoa! Well, look at the time. Well, in conclusion, the launch of Sputnik had major repercussions in history. This was because it was launched in a backdrop of turbulent relationships between the USSR and the US.
Also, this was an obvious statement that the Soviets were trying to show off their intellectual superiority. This caused wide-range reforms and changes in the American society.
Well, this concludes today's episode of Chan Channel. Tune in tomorrow for an episode on Anshan Regime with Catherine Siddiqui and Uzma Witten. See you tomorrow!